Hello and welcome to my review of Kengan Omega Chapter 63. So, this is my first time doing a review for Kengan Omega on the channel. Uh, I recently just caught up with it last week, and I decided that instead of doing videos for the entire series, I figured I might as well just start with the most recent chapter. So, we ended Chapter 62 with Gao Lang knocking down Carlos with Godfist, but Carlos got back up and he said, "Don't count me out yet. This is all I have." And that is expanded on here at the start of Chapter 63, the Godfist Unleashed. So Carlos is monologuing in his head about how you wouldn't understand the pain of being denied even a chance to fight. And he explains how people always chickened out of fighting him because he was so strong, and how his promoter sucked, so he never got good fights that he wanted. And it was because of that he gave up on public martial arts and instead joined underground martial arts in Purgatory. He felt out of place there, but found his place in the underground martial arts. And he says, "Gao Long Wang Sawat, you're the hero of the public and an uninvited guest in the underground. Get out. This is where I belong." So, this is a pretty interesting sort of perspective from Carlos. I've never seen something quite like it from a character before. It's probably just because I haven't read enough manga. But I find it interesting that he sees Gao Lang as sort of a threat to his position as the, top boxer in underground martial arts. It's sort of like, I guess it would kind of be like when a kid has a new sibling brought home and they sort of see them as like a threat to their position in the household, how they get all the attention and stuff from their parents. I just find it interesting that Carlos sees Gao Lang like that. But anyway, the guys on Purgatory's team are talking about how Carlos seemed to really take it hard, that punch from Gao Lang, and they didn't understand why. And we also finally learned the name of the dude wearing the fur. He's Naidan Monkibat. Apparently he's Mongolian. And the other dude with the mask is named Tarashi. But they're all trying to figure out why Medel took the punch so hard. And Lolong, the king, as one of the guys called him in the last few chapters, said that it's because the quality of his fist is different. So it's interesting that this guy is able to sort of discern that just from watching the fight. King is probably being hyped up as the most powerful of the Kengan fighters just because of his nickname. I assume he's basically like Purgatory's equivalent of what Agito used to be for Kengan. But anyway, the Chinese guy, what was his name again? Liu Dongcheng. He's telling them to keep watching the fight and how this is Purgatory, so they shouldn't be too worried. But Carlos tries to recover by taking shallow breaths, but Gao Lang just keeps up the assault on him. He doesn't give him any room to recover. And then Gao Lang unleashes his Muay Thai. He starts doing kicks. And at this point, he's just bullying he's just bullying Carlos. He's just totally thrashing him around. But he's apparently not taking any clean hits because he's still faster than Gao Lang. We've had Carlos's speed established early on. But it looks like Gao Lang's doing an uppercut, and it looks like he hits him, but it turns out that Gao Lang just barely dodged and had his chin cut and avoided taking a full-on uppercut. But then we get most of a page to show Carlos looking at Gao Lang getting ready to use the God Fist, and Nicholas just sort of waves his hand. He's like, well, he's not dodging that. And then we get a little, sort of a narrator monologue about how 2 years ago Gao Lang's fist was shattered by the Fang, and now after going over his ridiculous partial training, he had a new fist made of steel, an evolved right straight, and we see Gao Lang with his, it's funny, whenever he does, like, one of these big hits, he looks scared. Gao Lang only has, like, two facial expressions, bored and scared, but looks like he absolutely obliterates Carlos with a punch called the God Glow, which I guess is supposed to be, like, the evolution of the flash, or the flicker. But King is sitting there, and he says, "Good job, Medel." And then we see Carlos's face, which has been fucking smashed into his skull, but he seems to be happy. And then we see him wrap his legs around Gao Lang's waist. And this is where it's explained that everything went as Medel planned. So he realized that he didn't have a chance to actually beat Carlos in fighting, but instead decided to lure him to the edge of the ring and use Purgatory rules. As Chang says, under Purgatory rules, Purgatory gladiators never lose. And he got a double ring out by pulling Gao Lang out of the ring with him. And the commentators don't know who the victory will go to. So with that, we have the end of the first round of the tournament between the Kengan Association and Purgatory. Now, what do I think about this conclusion? Well, I think it kind of satisfies both of the sort of desires of the audience. That being, on the one side, they want Gao Lang to win, which he obviously dominated Medel. Medel's face looks like he tried to kiss a fucking hand grenade before it went off, while at the same time establishing the threat of Purgatory, because since this is sort of like a new threat for the Kengan fighters, you need to establish them as being formidable. So they've done that by showing how the rules of the Purgatory tournament could make things much more difficult for the Kengan fighters, because even if they are a superior fighter, they could still lose because the Purgatory fighters have a better understanding of the rules. Now, of course, this ending is pissing off people to no end because it's a scummy strategy on Medel's part, which I kind of get, but on the other hand, getting ring outs is like an actual legitimate strategy, even if, you know, the guy that uses the ring out is clearly an inferior combatant. But it's whatever. If that's the Purgatory rules, that's the rules that you've got to play by. So hopefully the next combatant for Kengan will have a better grasp of these rules and be able to win without worrying about something like this happening again. Of course, they don't say who the victory went to, but it seems to be heavily implied that it's going to go to Carlos, because it looks like Gao Lang's arm hit the floor before Medel's body did. I think probably something like this will happen again, but instead it will be with one of the Kengan fighters killing another one of the Purgatory fighters. It'll probably either be Ryan or Okoye, because they're fucking psychopaths that kill people regularly. But who do I think will go next? I haven't memorized all of the Purgatory fighters yet, but if I had to guess who would be going next for Kengan, I think to balance things out, it's going to be one of the lower tier fighters, either Akubo or the author guy whose name I can't remember, that uses, I think it's like a Russian martial arts style. I assume they'll probably go next, and they'll probably get the next win. If I had to guess, I'd probably say that Kengan's going to win the next match, and then maybe the match after that. It's probably going to be like an on and off thing, with each side occasionally getting a 2-win streak. But with that, we have pretty much gone over everything there is to go over for this chapter. If you enjoyed my review, please consider liking and subscribing. I will be doing Kengan Omega reviews weekly from here on out, And if you like other series like Record of Ragnarok, which I do reviews for, if you like Bleach, I've started doing reviews for that since I've just started watching the anime. And I do plan on doing videos for other series like Chainsaw Man in the near future. So if you're interested in any of that, subscribe so you don't miss any of it. Follow me on Twitter, I'll have the link in the description below, and I'll see you around.